Data Voyagers.
So, hello Data Voyagers. Well, today a different setup because we left out Igor. I'm here with my dear friends, Gwen, Priscila, and Stephanie, the Women Who Qlik. And we received this beautiful gift from Qlik. And we thought of closing down this amazing event where we met all our friends with a beautiful interview. I think with just some topics that we want to discuss from an AI point of view. So, question one, and if you feel like answering, just go. There's a lot of AI changed everything for me content out there, and most of it skips the messy middle. What did you actually learning? What did your actual learning curve look like? Where did you stumble before things started clicking? And I like to start with you, and you know why.
I actually have a funny story about where AI started clicking. I went back to school for my master's degree and did a lot of data science, machine learning topics. But I had the opportunity to take a Gen AI course. And the reason I even knew that was important was because my intern told me he used ChatGPT to create a data dictionary. And I'll be honest, I was so head down that I don't even think I really knew what it meant at that moment. And it was early in this journey. So I'm being very totally honest about that. But I was like, okay, this is really important once I dove in and I knew how important it was. And I was going to invest in an opportunity to explore the tool and the impact that it could have. So,
Yeah, cool. And Pri,
Yeah, I will tell about my book because when I started to write about data and AI literacy, in the beginning it was just data literacy, but with everything that we are living, I am discussing with the data specialists all the time. I discovered that to write about data literacy was not enough anymore.
No.
So it was time to include in the book another topics to guarantee that the reader can think about how to implement AI in the daily activities on their jobs. And it has been a very good experience to share it with the public.
yeah, yeah. And I read some part of your book with the help of making photos, letting it be translated by whatever LLM, and I was able to read some chapters, some pieces of the chapter. So yeah, you did a fine job. Yeah, and you, Steph.
Well, I think I started my AI journey with kind of housewife AI. Like really, like I really was a little scared of it and we weren't really allowed to use it at work. And I was like, should I like download ChatGPT and do something with it? So I really, and then when I eventually did, I kind of said, oh, can you give me a recipe for this? And I already knew the recipe. Like it was very housewife AI. And then I went to work one day and my boss told me, you're going to be the AI enablement officer on top of everything else I do at work. And I was like, okay, well, that's going to be fun. And we discussed a few different things. And I went, well, I got to really learn this. And so I started to really dig in. And I actually just did a whole course on Claude coding. And I actually created a whole Claude interface that actually will connect up to our Qlik Sense environment. And I am completely sold. I kind of went from this, as I said, this housewife using AI to, I love this. And I think for me, you know, there is that messy middle. So there's that kind of trying to get my head around like, how does that work? But I found it simpler than other tools and other things that I've used. And I'm a very, very impatient person. And AI is perfect for impatient people because the second you do it and you ask it, bam, there you have the result. Thinking, oh, I would like this interface. Oh, yes, and I do a little bit of here. Boom, there's a page and I can connect it. Really cool. So yeah, I'm completely on board.
Yeah.
So my messy middle was kind of like, you know, recipes.
Yeah. Yeah, well, if I look to myself, you know, on November 30th, 2022, my book was launched, Data Literacy in Practice. But also on that same day,
Right.
Thank you so much. But on that same day, ChatGPT was launched. And I thought, this is the new world. I have to assign. And then I had to wait 6 weeks. 6 weeks, guys, before I got in and started using ChatGPT. So yeah, it was, but crazy times, right? And the pace is so rapid.
I think that all the tools are changing so fast. Like I think Claude right now is definitely like kind of taking number one. But I don't know what it's going to be next week. I don't know how that's going to go, and I think that is also very exciting.
Yeah, I read yesterday a article about anthropic mythos, and that's a tool that can analyze your environment, but it also can find the leakage things, right? And but also it can manipulate your security environment. I was talking with it this morning during a free moment with my colleague of the union, and I said we have to shut it down because this is a very dangerous element, and I think that is also happening, right? Because we have to take care of the things that we do within our organization and what we teach to our students, because we, all four of us, are lecturers at a university, right? How do you approach that, Gwen?
So, approach
The risks,
So when we were talking about the messy middle, one of the advantages that I had of going through the course that I did was one of my professors, she wanted to be on the cutting edge of really bridging the technology with her students. And this was the first class that I was aware of that kind. But she gave us a lot of like caution and talked about how, you know, we actually had to use the tools, sign up for all of these tools. And she gave us guardrails. Do not use personal information. If you use somebody else's information, scrub it. Make sure you're cutting things out that you shouldn't, if you don't have permission to use, things of that nature. And I think that carries through with me today, even just a week and a half ago, demoing Qlik Answers to my students because there's some amazing functionality in the Qlik academic tenant now, and sharing that they can use that for exploration and creation, but to make sure that anything, if they're uploading anything, that they scrub that it's not personal, it's not a company's or somebody else's data that they don't own. So it's important to talk about the risks of what's okay to use, what's not okay to use, and that.
yeah. I think for you it's the same, right?
Yeah, I think one of the things too, like within my work, like with Claude Code, it's not exposed to the outside. So literally we have it on our desktop and we're really just having a play. We're really like in a play exploration environment. And that keeps it very safe. Now, where do we go from there? There is so much conversation about it. We have an AI committee. We have the AI empowerment committee. We have security and cybersecurity. So we have all these different players in the mix with very different viewpoints on how to roll out and what's allowed and what's not. And I don't think there's any really great answer. You know, your point on some of the releases in Claude, it can go into like a computer and take complete control.
Take everything.
Yeah, that can be very scary.
Actually, it's very scary.
Very scary.
I think one of the main things that happened with us on that November 2022 is that one tool was available in the hands of everybody without these do's and don'ts statements. Mm-hmm. So on that time, everybody did a lot of mistakes, put information that they could not inside the AI. So from there, the thing I always use part of my time to create this awareness. It's good, it's important, but there are many things that you have to pay attention. Otherwise, you can create risks. You can create I don't know, a bad situation for you, for your company. So it's important to have this awareness.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to add one thing. I did see a short video that we were showing at my work of, so the scenario is a lot of young people are literally talking to like different AI tools like a counselor or a friend. Well, I chat a little bit like a friend. I got my friend Claude and I got my friend this, but seriously, like, you know, okay, I'm having this problem, and you know, they're putting very personal data into this conversation like they're talking to another person. And I think something that's going to be very interesting as we move forward, what if that data can be used in court? it's not governed by client confidentiality. It's not governed by in the US HIPAA laws or whatever the EU laws are. This is not governed data. And so I think there's a lot around that still has to be governed and orchestrated and decided on. But very, very interesting topic as well, I think.
Yeah. We could fill it 2 hours.
2 hours on that
2
one.
hours on that one.
Just one follow up for me though. When I mentioned the course that I took and the caveats that we were given about using the tools, we didn't have tools that were specific for the university, so we're using open tools, and that was why we were given that guidance. Now, Qlik Answers, we know, is a bit different. It's not open, so your data stays in yours. So it's not an open tool. So there's a different amount of risk or a limitation of risk on the.
And I think one of the main advantages from Qlik Answers, or one of the best things from Qlik Answers, is if it can't give an answer, it will tell you that it can't give an answer. So that is, I think, one of the best things that I've seen in this type of tools.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's curated data, right? It's your curated data. It's what you own. So it's only answering on things that you're looking at anyway. And it does respect your already security that you put in place.
Exactly. So question 2. The pressure to adopt AI is real right now. So the pressure is the pressure to look like you already know what you're doing? How do you make room to actually learn something when anyone expects you to have it figured out? Is that a good question?
So I will take an answer part of that at least. So there is a lot of pressure to learn AI, and I share this. This is something that I would share with you guys and also with my students. One thing that I saw from a career development standpoint, every year most companies require a portfolio review of your performance and your growth. And I noticed that AI became a requirement in the personal development stack. Yeah. So what does that mean? Does that mean you have to be an expert? No, but I think you have to learn to work with the tools, and everybody really is at different levels. And sometimes I think even their opinions about the tools can be very polarizing, kind of resenting. Some folks I've seen resenting having to use the tool because either they're afraid, they're not interested for whatever reason, and then some folks are really interested, and then it's like, I want to do it, but it requires a license, and then the company doesn't pay for the license, or there's a lot of nuance here. But I do feel like for my team and even my students, I'm like, you have to begin to explore these safe, fun tools. And my team, I remember right after I started, the best use of the tool is to create meeting minutes, because we never had meeting minutes. And so now I'm like, just spend 2 minutes after the meeting. I say now, this was 12 months ago. I would say just spend 2 minutes dictating what happened into Microsoft Word. Just dictate that in. And then we all had Copilot, and I said, dictate that in, put it into Copilot, tell it to create, show them how to create a prompt to repeat that process. Like, here's my notes, and then we posted in the Confluence. So now we have meeting minutes. Yeah. And it took 2 plus however long to generate and upload to the Confluence. So simple way.
Yeah, and I know, Pri, you had a very special occasion last year. You organized a hackathon. Can you tell us something about that?
Yeah, I believe that now AI is here. The pressure will come. And it's important for us inside the companies to understand how to address this pressure. So we started with learning. So first, how to create a prompt, how to ask questions. And then we decide to go to another awareness program that was the creation of the hackathon, the Gen AI hackathon. And it was very good because we put people together from different areas that doesn't work together in the daily basis. So we make them think about how to solve a problem using Gen AI. And this was amazing. But let's say that now we have to create value. That is what I think every company will work with this on the next months and years, because okay, we have a problem, we have the technology, but how can we make the technology transform that problem, that question, in some answer? So, and another thing that I want to say about this question is if we don't address the pressure, we will create the shadow AIs. Because department, yes, will start to try to do their things on their own, and the artificial, Gen AI is there, so they think, oh, I can do it.
Yeah.
But it will conflict with everything that we already experience with business intelligence, with data governance, with so we still have things to
We have now shadow AI.
Yeah, because so I think what you have within a company, especially, is there's a lot of pressure from the very top, and that pressure is to automate or optimize or bring up the productivity. Like, where is it? We want to see it from the top, and then where I kind of sit, and I think all of us kind of sit. Then now we're trying to figure out, well, then how do we deliver that? And then we're trying to deliver with constraints because of the security part of it. So we kind of have a constraint on it. And so then a lot of us, to your point, are now kind of like, okay, well, I have ChatGPT on my phone. I'll use my ChatGPT on my phone to do my research, and then I'm going to type it into my email. And I have Copilot on my email, but I have limited Copilot. So I can't do with the Copilot what I can do with what's sitting on my phone. And so you have this very interesting kind of a quandrum going on, right?
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know where that's going to end, but I do think this comes down to AI literacy.
Yep.
And this is so important, and this is what you were saying, is I think it's time to really start training our staffs, training our people, getting them to understand it, getting them, okay, how do you take what you have, like your Copilot, and how do you increase your production using that? And then let's start somewhere and then branch out. Make a chat bot, like that's easy. You can use created data within the company. There's things that can be done.
Exactly. Yeah, AI awareness, I think, is at the basis for everybody within an organization. As a fact, accordingly to the European AI Act, because we have a European AI Act, and regarding Article 4, every employer within the Netherlands that is using AI, even an AI solution like an LLM, it's mandatory to train its staff.
That makes sense.
It's mandatory.
That makes sense.
To have the awareness training, right? So yeah, we have to think of that pretty good. What does AI generally do well for you right now, and what is still bad and that people aren't being honest enough about it?
All right, I think it like small tasks does very well. Like, can you rewrite this for me? Can you fix this email? Meeting notes to what Gwen was saying, just phenomenal. Different types of like automating things, like what we are in the middle of, and I know it's going to work well because we've tested it. We do a lot of Qlik environment cleanups. We can use Claude to do all of that. We can actually just automate that entire process. I think all of that stuff it does well. I think where it's more challenging and maybe doesn't do well is kind of when you're giving it more higher intellectual questions. Like, okay, so regular Qlik coding, I have put code in and said, can you fix this for me? At times, it's absolutely brilliant. At times, maybe not so brilliant. So I think there's like some tweaking there.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what I've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you, Pri?
I think we still see some hallucination,
Yeah.
and that is the part that we have really to pay attention, because otherwise we will use the content, we will. And I'm a very fan, and I'm using a lot to help me to write, to help me to think outside the box sometimes, because I think this is very important.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like Steph, I'm doing some trip plannings using AI. But to me, I really believe that it's one kind of thing that we can include in our workflows, process workflows, and so.
Yeah. Gwen?
So I think it varies depending on the use case and depending on the tool. And specific example from an internal project. We are creating a training program for Qlik Answers. It's called Accelerate Answers. And we were trying to think about how to also integrate tools like Copilot or ChatGPT, those are tools we have internal access to from an enterprise standpoint. So we were trying to think, okay, we want to help go through the whole life cycle of how to build this experience. And that includes preparation of the content, how do we come up with some content and then standardize it, et cetera. So what I think it does well, in a way, so it did some things really well. We said, take this content, create a standard format, prepare, an SOP, something like that. And it did well, but I will say sometimes it veers off course a little bit. And then when you're hoping you get a standard output that's consistent and you can expect the certain metadata or like formatting of like, when was this created, who was you know what I'm saying? Like sometimes it's not the greatest, but I think it's enough that we can illustrate how to go through that process to leverage dictation, or somebody sends an email with a summary and you're like, oh, we need to create a process. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. These are the steps. Build this document. We're going to put it in an assistant. And that, I think it does some of that really well, but it's still not perfect, even the internal ones.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because I think it's not only the hallucinations that we're still suffering from, because a lot of people there is a lot of content created by ChatGPT or another LLM, and that is fed into the system again. It's trained on bad output, actually. So that is where we get, I think, our issues also from. So yeah, I think I fully agree that we have to pay attention to the elements of hallucinations. We have to train everybody, as we are lecturers and trainers as well at our companies. We have to train people in critical thinking. Stop, think, stop, pause and think, and form your questions. What am I looking at? Or fact check, because I want to fact check everything. I think that's one of the most important skills, right?
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
To add to that, I think that in that example that I gave, you still, just getting there quickly doesn't remove you of all responsibility. You get there quickly, that gives you more time to review and confirm, hey, every step in this document is exactly as I intended it to be, or it's not. Make the changes, make the tweaks, make sure it's accurate, but you put your eyes on it, you put your hands on it and validate it, and then move forward. Getting there speedily in 30 seconds because I know how to use the tool to summarize and do those things, that's great. It gives you more time to apply what you know about the process to review. And
I think one other really quick thing too is I think it does things like Qlik Answers. That's great. Like that, does that well. I think like you creating a chat bot on data that you have, and it's reading that data and it's giving answers. Like we have an HR chat bot, we're getting an overall chat bot that we're building. They work very well. I think they're really good and they're safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the main things that I learned from this event was about context. You will see my LinkedIn posts on next week's, because the chief context officer stayed in my mind.
It's still in my mind.
Yeah, I want
Absolutely agree.
that.
Yeah. So next year we will. Yeah.
The gangster.
The gangster.
Yeah, I totally agree. So to wrap it up, I have a last question and then a mini question after that. So someone in this room here, and we met so many people, is probably at the very start of their AI journey and feel left behind. What would you tell them that nobody told you?
Don't be scared, really experiment. Just go have a play. Make a play area, have a play.
Yeah.
Don't put your personal information in there and give them your bank account numbers. But apart from that, go have a play and learn it. Like get your hands in there.
Get your hands on it. Gwen?
yeah, I would definitely encourage folks to do it, because it's an opportunity not only to learn it, but to learn other things. And I feel like I had a professor who said it best. It's like it's a democratization of this skill set that will allow you to learn even more just by being confident using the tool, right? So it's important that you get started somewhere. Start with something familiar, start with something small, low risk, maybe. An example, we were recently entertaining the idea of traveling to the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles. And so we were like, how would we plan a trip like that? It's 15 days. You can only buy tickets for 6 events for 2 people. You don't want to travel too far away. Where would you stay? You know, this kind of thing. So we said, let's ask Chat. And so we like these events. We would like to stay in this time frame. And what do you see? You know, gave a link to the site, different things. And that's low risk, you know, and it put a little trip together for a whole week and said, stay downtown, do baseball on Monday, gymnastics on Tuesday, swimming. And it was like, do you know how much time that would save somebody? You know, I know trip planning, that's I think low stakes and fun, and yeah.
I would say follow us because we are always talking about that. So to learn, yes. But I believe a lot that we have to try and we have to learn about it and
Keep on learning.
Keep on learning.
Yeah. So from my perspective, I think people at home, they can practice a lot, you know, get your hands on tools, try to do the housewife things, create a recipe and so on. From the employer point of view, the employers need to create a safe environment that people can experiment, but also that they are able to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And create that safety. And yeah, well, to wrap it up, I would like to ask you one question more. So if you have to summarize this conference, our being here, meeting each other again, we are friends for life, I think.
Yeah.
How would you, can you put that in one sentence?
One sentence. Ah,
Or one word?
blessed.
Blessed, yeah.
Yeah.
3.
Gift.
Gift, yeah.
Oh, how can I top blessed and gift, which I both agree with?
Yeah.
Just honored to be here, honored to be part of this, and honored to have you guys as friends. Yeah, honored. Yeah. And humbled.
Yeah, so I agree totally with you, and I would say friends.
Friends.
Because it's friends, it's friendship, what is the key word here at this conference. Thanks, girls.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we will let you know when it's live, and so we can promote the hell out of it again to next time. Yeah. So that was it, Data Voyagers. I think this was the last podcast recording that we will be doing from Qlik Connect Live. Hope to see you next time, and safe travels home, everybody, and take care of yourselves. Be safe and love each other, please. Thank you.
Data